What's going on, everyone? So, a lot of reports are circulating that the Lakers at some point are going to get a deal done for Zach LaVine. I mean, time will tell. We'll see if that actually happens or not. But it does make a lot of sense. The Lakers could really use Zach LaVine. Lakers are seventh in defense as of yesterday. I don't know what it is after the Timberwolves game. We'll have to wait for those updates. But they, last I checked, were seventh in defense, and they were 26th in offense. Right? Their offense is an issue. Zach LaVine solves like 70% of your problems. And Zach LaVine, I understand that there's concerns about his contract, him making $40 million this year. I also understand that there's concerns about his injury history. I've always said you can't make decisions based on injuries just because nothing would happen, right? Anthony Davis had an injury history, and if you didn't trade for Anthony Davis, we may have never have won a championship in the LeBron tenure, right? Sometimes you got to take that risk. You got to hope that, hey, our medical staff, we trust our organization. Zach LaVine would be going from, the number one guy to the number three guy, so he'd have less of a workload. There's a lot of factors that go into that. As far as the finances go, the Lakers will be fine. The Lakers, even if they trade for Zach LaVine, are still going to be 10 guys deep, at worst 9 guys deep. And on top of that, most of their roster would still be locked up for the next 3 to 4 years, right? We'll see what happens with LeBron James. So the Lakers would have plenty of just players. At that point, you're just trying to fill in the gaps with vet minimum guys anyway. It doesn't change. The only thing that it impacts is the luxury tax that Jeannie Buss would have to pay. And whatever that is, that's up to Jeannie, right? Us as fans should just be worried about trying to put the best team as possible. This team is greatly underachieving. Look, depth is great, but it only counts if guys are actually playing well, if the rotations make sense, all of that stuff, right? And so far it hasn't. But here's the thing. Let's say the Lakers do trade for Zach LaVine. I hope that they get at least an Andre Drummond in the process as well, because we need another center. So at least you got a center and a Zach LaVine who gives you a quality scorer. The Lakers still could use other things. Like I said, Zach LaVine solves like 70%, but it doesn't solve everything, right? And I'm not counting like the Lakers' effort and stuff like that. I'm talking about just like the things that the Lakers need on the basketball court. Zach LaVine is like 70% of what the Lakers need. Lakers need other things though. So let's assume, again, just for argument's sake, let's say that the Lakers went and traded for Zach LaVine and they traded for Andre Drummond. Let's say it was like a package center around D'Lo and Rui Hachimura and then whatever else it takes to get there, right? So bear with me. Now, the Lakers need other things. You got your go-to scorer. You got your center. The Lakers could really use a 3-and-D style wing. But they're very limited on what that could be. Well, one option would be Myles Bridges. Now, I actually love the idea of Myles Bridges. I understand his off-the-court history. I understand the questions with that. Again, however you feel about that, there's a difference between the art and the artist, right? And when it comes to sports, organizations don't really care. Organizations only look at it because it's a business. They only look at it as like, what can you provide us? And look, if Myles Bridges comes to the Lakers and he has an impact and the Lakers are winning, that conversation, that narrative goes away. I mean, think of all of the athletes, all of the celebrities, all of the successful people that have just done horrendous things, even things worse than Myles Bridges. And none of them had to worry about anything because we live in a world where if you're successful, it's not a big thing. Whether that's right or wrong, doesn't matter. That's just the reality. And so if the Lakers were to look for another 3-and-D style guy, Bridges is a very obtainable and realistic target. So Bridges is only making just a hair under $8 million. The Lakers could easily get to that price, even just stacking vet minimum guys if they had to, get to $7 million and give up a couple assets. Now, as far as like him being available for trade, currently there is no like definitive word that he is available for trades, but there is a lot of murmurs and a lot of talks and a lot of Hornets insiders that have said the Hornets may look to move off of Myles Bridges because they don't believe that he's going to re-sign with them. That they don't believe because he accepted the qualifying offer because they weren't able to work out on a deal, and they have their conflicts. Apparently, both sides, again, take all this stuff with a grain of salt. Who knows for certain? But if the reports are true, then Myles Bridges and the Charlotte Hornets are very likely coming to an end. Myles Bridges and the Charlotte Hornets, they don't really see eye to eye, and both parties kind of need to separate at some point. Myles Bridges is a very reasonable, obtainable guy, but because of his history and because of some things like him not being able to fly to Toronto, although the Charlotte Hornets are trying to work on those things and stuff, but there is definitely concerns with him. The market for him is very likely going to be limited, and I think he would fit the Lakers perfectly. He would be a huge upgrade at the 3 position for the Lakers. He's still extremely young at 25 years old. If you trade for him, then you could have his bird rights in order to re-sign him. And he's having a great year, even after missing time. He's got good size, good strength, good athleticism. He can guard essentially 1 through 4 for you. And this year so far for the Charlotte Hornets, even with the time, because remember, he didn't play last season, he picked up right where he left off. So far this year, he's played 15 games. He started in 13 of them. He's averaged 36 minutes a game. He's scoring a hair under 20 points per game, 19.6. He's getting 7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.4 steals, and half a block per game. He is shooting 85% from the free throw line. He's shooting 54.2% from 2-point range, and 3-point range has been a little rough this year. 33.3%, but he has had a year where he shot 40%, playing alongside LeBron James, playing alongside Anthony Davis. Maybe that picks up a little bit more, but even then, he's still an upgrade over Cam Reddish and even Jared Vanderbilt, right? Because he's a guy that can put the ball in the hoop, hit the mid-range, do multiple things, get to the basket, draw contact, all that stuff. He's an excellent rebounder for being a forward. He can play the 3, he can play the 4, but more likely than not, he would play the 4. He could be our like Rui Hachimura acquisition, right? He needs to get out of Charlotte. Lakers hit Charlotte up and say, hey, let's work something out. We'll give you some pieces. Maybe we'll give you one of our young guys, right? Maybe you put a package together where they're getting like a Maxwell Lewis, right? And there's your young piece. And then, you got to go give up like another vet minimum or something. Maybe you give up Jackson Hayes, especially if you get Andre Drummond, right? Like, let's say, again, you get Zach Lavine, Andre Drummond. You could go and trade, say, Maxwell Lewis, Jackson Hayes, and maybe you throw in Shafino or whatever, and a second or 2, right? So here's 2 young players. Here's, just salary filler, and then here's a second-round pick. Give us Myles Bridges. The Lakers are in win-now mode. He's still, like I mentioned, 25 years old. He could go there. And let's bring Myles Bridges to the Lakers. I think if you could get Myles Bridges, you could get Andre Drummond, and you could get Zach LaVine, I think that's a home run. Honestly, I think that would be an absolute home run. I think that solves basically all of your needs, right? Obviously, he's not a great 3-point shooter, but can his 3-point shooting improve? Also, you got to keep in mind, he sat out a year. So, is that part of it? Does he just kind of need to get in a rhythm, get in a flow? Because he did have a year, like I said, where he shot 40% on 4.4 attempts. And that was the 2020-2021 season, right? So can that happen? Can he get back to that? Even if he doesn't shoot 40%, can he get to 36, 37% to where he's at least respectable? Like I mentioned, he's an upgrade. And he's a young wing that you could re-sign for the long term. And you keep him long term, and he basically replaces your Rui Hachimura that you're going to give up in a Chicago Bulls deal for Zach LaVine. And I understand that there's the concern, what about the Toronto issue, right? Like, that's not going to be a concern unless the Lakers end up running into Toronto in the NBA Finals. Because you're not going to see them in the playoffs. And during the regular season, if he has to sit out those 2 games a year, then he sits out those 2 games a year. It's not the end of the world. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Lakers would get that resolved to where they'll be able to do that. I don't think that would be a problem. I don't think that would be an issue. But he also would just be so low risk, high reward. You're in win now. You go get him, all of a sudden, the Lakers could be very good, very competitive. Gives you another guy that is capable of scoring 20. I don't think he'd be a 20-point-a-game guy with the Lakers, just because, especially if you have Zach LaVine. But he is a guy that, on any given night could just get hot and go give you 20. I'd be looking more at him for just the defensive purposes and gives you another sizable wing, right? So now you could do something like, say for a starting five, you could go, say, Zach LaVine, you could go Taurean Prince or Cam Reddish if you wanted to, then go Myles Bridges, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. If you want to go with the Reddish route, because you have basically two athletic wings in Reddish and Myles Bridges for defensive purpose. Both of those guys can put the ball on the floor and get to the hoop. And then you have Zach LaVine, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, who are your main offense outputs, and you got an athletic guard in Zach LaVine. All of a sudden, you're a huge team with a ton of athleticism, a ton of youth, ton of explosiveness. Right? Now you're a contending team. Again, just trying to figure out ways to get guys that may be out of the norm, that you may not expect, right? Maybe the Lakers could look to acquire Bridges after the 15th. I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't hate the idea. If you could get like a Dorian Finney-Smith or something like that, then maybe that'd be better. But I just think Bridges, he needs a fresh start badly. He's very likely on his last year with the Charlotte Hornets regardless. And, I think him going to the Lakers would give him that fresh start, new opportunity, right? You see guys like that all the time, pick it up and play better. He's definitely a need that the Lakers have. He's not somebody that's going to break the bank. Like I said, you could trade for Zach LaVine and still get him, right? So I think that if you can work that out and you could figure out a way to get him, I think you should get him. I do, genuinely. But do you feel the same way? Again, as always, pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Do you like the idea of Myles Bridges? Do you not? If not, why? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.